What's going on, everybody? We are back. Dangle Bet Selly live here at FTN Fantasy. Chris Meaney and the Eric Young here with you. And as you can see, we are taking part in a live fantasy hockey draft, best ball draft over at Underdog Fantasy. And we are officially underway here with Eric Young on the clock. And boom, just like that, Austin Matthews on your squad. Appreciate you guys, as always, taking the time to hang out with us here. This draft is going to move along pretty quickly. We'll talk about the process throughout this draft. I am on the clock here. Actually, don't mind Leon Draisaitl here in this spot. That's the way that I will go. We'll talk about strategy throughout. But welcome in. Here we go. We'll get a look at the draft board as well. So, EY, what's up, brother? How you been, man?
It was so good to hear that music. I mean, we were talking a little bit before we jumped on. The NHL season totally crept up on me. Full-time wrestling, juggling, promoting, and getting ready to debut a brand new television show about vinyl records. I fly to the United Kingdom on Thursday and will be in the United Kingdom for the start of the hockey season for 3 weeks. But I'm taking my stuff to record the shows, and doesn't matter if I think be up at 1 o'clock to do them, I'll do them. I can't wait for hockey season, man. I'm pumped. Look at my yellow sheet.
Oh, he's back. The yellow sheet's back. Yes, the season starts in a couple days. In North America, the 8th. So we will have an episode for you on Tuesday. We plan on doing a prediction episode if we could squeeze that in. And then we would love to have another Dangle Bet Selly League. That was a lot of fun last year. If those people are willing, you can reach out in the comments section. You can reach out meanstreetsftn@gmail.com. Reach out on Twitter at Chris Meaney, at the Eric Young, at FTN Fantasy. If you are interested, we could maybe just miss the first few days. We'll make it work with everybody, their schedule. So we have a fantasy hockey draft kit, which is live. It's free over at FTN Fantasy. Rankings, sleepers, busts, breakout. We have an NHL betting guide, rolled through every single team, talked about my targets in from every team, have some futures, division winners, favorite player props, fades. It's all there for you. Rankings will be updated throughout the season. We'll have fantasy hockey waiver wire articles out throughout for the entire season as well. All free over at FTN Fantasy. There's some links inside the description of this video. So I'm coming up here on the clock, and then we'll get into kind of what we're doing here and the strategy behind it. I actually don't have much Roman Josi, and I'm pretty excited to get him here. I might go that way as Hellebuck goes off the board. I'll probably go with Hyman, get a little bit of a stack. I kind of teased you on Josi, although I really like it, and we'll go with Hyman there. We'll talk about the strategy here throughout. Stacking is not everything. Josi goes right after. It does help. I don't think you need to force it. But again, this is a best ball format for those that are unfamiliar. Eric, you are on the clock. So you take care of business there, and I'll roll through what we're doing here at Underdog Fantasy. Again, if you're unfamiliar, lots of best ball drafts, just like football. When we did football, best ball drafts,
we're living
Kyle Connor's show. And right away, he takes his guy, Kyle Connor. So, we over at Underdog Fantasy, you can, there's props, over unders, more or less. There's best ball drafts. Shout out to our guy, Queisenberg DFS, who's doing some NBA best ball drafts there. And here we're doing a hockey one. So there are, as you can see, 16 rounds.
I text your Sturkin. My third pick.
You just took Shesterkin. There was your third pick. Would you have gone Saros if he was there? Or you still Shesterkin is still ahead of Saros?
Yeah, I think he's ahead of Saros. It's no secret I'm a Nashville Predators fan. It's so exciting living in Nashville right now. All the stuff they did in the offseason. Barry Trotz is in full flight with his little short arms, flapping like a lunatic. I did a golf outing with the Preds. I got to meet Coach Burnett, super cool guy. We chit-chatted about the season a little bit, and talked with Josi, hung out with him for a little bit. A buddy of mine, we met him when we were at the Bell Center, and we went to the game together in Montreal. And this team is looking ultra dangerous.
They are. I hope everybody can see the draft board I don't think I can. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I
nothing we
can
can do.
zoom in here and maybe I can make this a little bit easier. Is that better for people? I think that
I think
may
so.
actually
Yeah.
be a little bit better for some people there. So yes, Predators, you'd be proud of me. I got a future on 18 to 1 to win the Stanley Cup.
Nice.
I think that they have all the pieces. They impressed me last year on basically a one-line team. They have the stud in net in Saros. They have a horse on the blue line, which you need in Yossi to make a deep playoff run. And then they acquired veterans who have won the Stanley Cup before, right? You're adding Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault to that room. And Novak, was sneaky good last year. Now all of a sudden, it looks like he's going to have two wingers. Like you're just adding 100 goals, essentially, 90, 80 goals to that line. And you already have the top line that was good last year in Ryan O'Reilly, Forsberg, and Nyquist. So we may see a dip in terms of Stamkos. Like we may, right? He leaves that top power play. He leaves Kucherov.
He's not the player he was, but
he
can still shoot the puck like a lunatic.
Yeah, he can. And like Nyquist, that's a guy that may take a step back this year because I don't really view him on the first power play anymore because you have a guy like Marchessault and you have a guy like Stamkos. But certainly those players are going to help the special teams. Marchessault can kill some penalties for you. So yeah, I'm in. I mean, it's a tough division, of course, with Colorado and Dallas, but I am in on the Nashville Predators at 18 to 1. A bit of a long shot for me to win the Stanley Cup. I certainly like Edmonton a little bit more than them, but there's good value at 18 to 1 with the Preds. So we're coming up here in the fourth round. We again, we'll talk strategy here throughout. This draft comes at you pretty quick. You have like 30 seconds essentially to make your pick. 16 rounds, best ball. So there's no waiver wire process at all. For the week, it's going to take your top center, two wingers, a defenseman, and a goalie, as well as a flex. So I'm on the clock here. So I'll just I'll take a peek here. And Sorokin, I actually don't have a lot of shares of Sorokin. I'm a little concerned. I don't know. Should I be concerned with how Patrick Waugh last year? I'm going to roll with Sorokin. Should I be? There's two goalies that are really concerning me right now that are going early in drafts. One is Sorokin. I think he's got all the talent in the world, but I don't know what his future holds or what it looks like in New York with Patrick Waugh. Was that just something he was doing last year and giving Varlamov a little bit more time than he should have? Like, I know he's got the relationship with
Varlamov's always been his guy, right?
Days. Right. So
I think that's what it is.
So I'm a little uneasy taking Sorokin. I did just take him there. I know that his ceiling is high. We'll see. The usage should be like it should be 65% Sorokin, like getting the starts, at least 70%, in my opinion. I think he's
I think
is Varlamov.
I think part of he fell off, right? He wasn't the dominant player he was when Patrick came on, and so he let Varlamov run with it, and Varlamov was very good. So it's just like it just kind of happened. I still think Sorokin's the number one there. I don't think he's gonna, be overtaken, but at the same time, that's what we saw. But I think Sorokin's the number one. I would go Sorokin. Varlamov isn't getting younger. I think Patrick Waugh ran with him because he had to. They needed to win games.
Yeah, for sure. The other goalie is Jeremy Swayman. Like, it's
getting ugly.
It's absolutely getting ugly. So if there was no contract debate, he would be goalie number 4 for me, probably. Let me, what do you think of, you go in on this and let me make a pick here.
Yeah, I think, Swayman, it's ugly between him and Boston. Cam Neely saying, we offered him all this money and why doesn't he take it? And then the agent said, we've never been offered that money. That number has never been told to us. So that's why we haven't taken it, because we've never discussed that kind of number. So that's just ugly. That's a GM lying to the media, trying to put pressure on a guy that they obviously want. And I mean, Jerry Swayman playing for the Boston Bruins, I think they probably improved their blue line with Zadorov and were magically somehow, to our chagrin, a very, very good team again last year. And I mean, until they prove it otherwise, I think they're going to be a good team again. They need Jeremy Swayman because Linus Allmark is gone. So,
Right.
Boston Bruins better be doing something. Old Seabass better be figuring out how to grease the wheels here.
So I thought it was a little bit of a low blow from Cam Neely. I didn't really think that was necessary. Didn't think it was called for. I think that Swayman has all the leverage in the world because one,
especially
he was
now,
awesome last year. Yeah, especially now. He was awesome last year and he overtook the net. And they traded Linus Allmark away without signing Swayman, who is an RFA.
Not a great idea.
But it's not the best strategy. They didn't do it the correct way. They probably thought, okay, we'll get Swayman. According to reports, like the $8 million, great. Like Swayman's looking for $9 million. There's other goalies out there, the 8.5, $9 million. And again, he has all the leverage here with Allmark now in Ottawa. They're going to find out in a hurry that Joonas Korpisalo is not the answer. So we'll see how this does play out. It could be a situation like William Nylander where he didn't get signed till almost December. So you could be without Swayman for a little bit. The Bruins could be without Swayman for a bit. The schedule is tough to start. If Korpisalo is awful to start, they may have to just give in to the demands of said Swayman. So I am up here on the clock again, and I have a lot of shares of Victor Hedman this year. I'm going to take him as my top defenseman. I just think with Sergachev now gone, Hedman goes back into being a top 5 defenseman in fantasy hockey. I get it. Stamkos is gone from the power play, but they bring in Jake Gensel. There are two guys that benefit there. Hedman gets back to taking over power play 1 duties, touching all categories, now wearing the C in Tampa. And then there's Sergachev on the other side, who I think is massively undervalued in this format. I view him as a top 10 fantasy hockey defenseman. I think he's outside the top 20, 22, 23 here. Like, I like him more than Faber, Carlson, McAvoy, other Carlson, Werenski, even Morgan Riley. And you know what? I could see him having a better season than Miro Heiskanen, and it just depends on your settings here. But again, like I have no problem going Victor Hedman. I have a lot of shares of him already. But those two goalie situations, I think if you do decide to draft Swayman, especially in early in your draft, you're going to want to consider Joonas Korpisalo. Maybe not so much in this setting as best ball to have two goalies from one team. Kind of limits the upside, but in your redraft league with your buddies, if you're going to take Swayman, you should be considering Joonas Korpisalo a little bit later on. The other guy is Thatcher Demko, who went ahead of Jacob Markstrom and Linus Allmark in this draft. Now, I think that Thatcher Demko has a high ceiling, is one of the better goalies, but I think he remains without a timetable for return, and he has been hurt multiple times over the course of his career. I don't want to draft a guy that's already hurt.
There's no information. We're not saying that he's not going to start because there's no information, but we're saying there is a possibility that he might not start, right? He might not be ready to go at the start of the season. Didn't play at all in the preseason, and there's literally no information of what's going to happen for him. I mean, that's terrifying to me. Take somebody else.
Too early for Mitchkov? How special is this guy going to be?
I mean, I'm wearing a Philadelphia Flyers tank top, so.
Are you? I didn't even notice. I ended up taking Darcy Kemper there as my second goalie. So I don't always feel comfortable taking goalies early, but I think it's important in this format, best ball. You're not going to be able to compete if you don't have like two maybe top 15 goalies. If you want to get if you get 2 top 10s, I think you can avoid it. Maybe with your last pick, you pick a third goalie. But if you live outside, like say Kemper's your first goalie, he's my second, but you're going to have to get involved with like maybe a Kochetkov for Carolina, an Ingram for Utah, maybe an Anderson in Carolina a little bit later on. I still like Kochetkov a little bit more. You're just going to have to really get 3 pieces in net if you don't attack the goalie position early, and you just won't compete, unfortunately. You just won't compete. So you may have to go outside your comfort zone to get that second goalie. I noticed you got Joseph Wall
I did.
What do you think of Joseph Wall this year? Because I kind of feel like
this is the Leafs year.
Could be I think it could be Stolarz. Like I wouldn't be shocked if Stolarz overtook that net.
I won't be shocked either. I think Joseph Wall is going to get the chance, and I think if he plays to the potential, I mean, they're clearly, I think, in my opinion, clearly better on the blue line. Even if Chris Tanev is just the player that he was last year, that makes them better. I know I say it every year, but
he's saying it. He's gonna say it.
I'm saying it. I really believe in the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. I can't wait for the prediction show. I got some doozies.
Nice. I like the makeup of their squad. I think they're a little bit more sound defensively. Like they get a shutdown guy in Tanev. OEL is a little bit, older, but hey, he was good for the Panthers. Just won a cup. So they do have some experience on the blue line. And if some of those kids on the left side could work out like a Robertson, like we see an uptick maybe potentially from a guy like Matthew Nyes or McCann, hey, maybe they'll get something out of Pacioretty. Don't fully believe, but if he can stay healthy, he can chip in on the second power play unit. He can move up and down the lineup, maybe score 20, 25 goals. But the one thing for me, I don't know. I just have this weird feeling about Stolarz. Like, I think that his numbers last year certainly won't carry over because Florida's just such a stingy team at 5-5. They allowed the fewest goals, shot attempts, high danger chances. Like, they're just so good at 5-5. But he's had some decent moments before, small sample sizes with the Ducks and whatnot, that I think you're right. It's going to be Wall to start, but he hasn't shown us that he can handle a full workload. Health has been an issue. That maybe this could be a 50-50 split. It could be a 60-40 thing. If Wall gets hurt or struggles, Stolarz could overtake him. So I just feel like the gap between the two is fairly large. And you'll laugh, but the goalie that I have the most exposure to here through drafting probably 30 drafts over the past 2 weeks is Stolarz. I just pick him late last round. I just like, hey, man, this guy could fall into 30 wins with the Leafs and wouldn't shock me.
Sure he could. I mean, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Joseph Wall's net. Stolarz has never been a starter anywhere. I mean, he obviously played really well when he was needed to. Great experiencing going late in the playoffs and all of that stuff. But I think the Maple Leafs view Joseph Wall as the starter, and they picked up Stolarz because Joseph Wall has trouble staying healthy. I think if he stays healthy, I think he's going to be very, very good. And that's why I took him there.
Okay, so I am up here now. I'm looking at I was gonna go Matheson. He just goes right in front of me. So we'll try to wait for 2 targets at the defense position on the way back. I'm gonna take Dylan Guenther. I'm trying to diversify my shares a little bit in my exposure because like things are gonna happen in the NHL. I could be wrong about a couple targets or whatnot. Injuries will happen, but my goodness, I feel like I take Dylan Guenther or JJ Peterka in almost every draft. I've noticed Peterka went in this round, just one pick after you. But those guys, I think this is fair here in terms of round 9. Yahoo, you'll see them like buried at ADP of 150, 160. I have these guys much closer to the 100 mark than the 150 mark. I've been taking them kind of side by side in drafts, so I'm seeing that maybe this room is sharp, or maybe other people just like those guys as well. But Gunther's a guy that I think we'll be talking about a lot. Both him and JJ Peterka are in the breakout section of the fantasy hockey draft kit. And you could make the case that Peterka broke out last year with 20 some odd goals, but he looked great alongside Skinner or alongside Tage Thompson and Tuck, and Skinner is gone. And as for Guenther, I'm pretty excited about him and Cooley in Utah. You could see the connection towards the end of last season. Both players found their way on the top power play. I think the power play is going to be improved this season as well with the addition of Mikhail Sergachev. So Utah has many reasons to be excited. And I did see they tweeted out their concession stand on the prices. It's like $2 for a hot dog, $2 for ice cream. Yeah, that's how it should be, man.
It should be against the law. They're like it's $20 for a beer at a Predators game. That's insane.
It's like 30 in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean worse in other places. And I'm pretty quiet. $20 for a can of beer is robbery, and like they know people will pay because you're trapped. You can't leave.
Oh yeah,
it should just.
Yeah,
I understand capitalism. It's great when it's working for you, but oh man, it's. I mean, there should be a set price across the league. It's set. It's even if it was $10. Like that's at least not totally insane.
Man, even in Montreal, it's not expensive as you think, and that's a building that's always sold out and passionate fans. Yep. But for whatever reason, you go to Toronto, you get a hot dog and a beer. It's like $45. It's just absolutely
I fill up before I go, and then just sit in silence, be nervous the entire time.
I love it. Coming up here on the other pick, the last few picks, McCann, Carlson, and Tavares and Ingram. We'll get a look at the board here, the draft board. So, Byfield's here, Ehlers, Jake DeBrusk. I like the landing spot. I really like Cutter Gauthier there. I think just like in Utah where you have Logan Cooley and Gunther, I think Cutter Gauthier and Leo Carlson are a really interesting duo, and they may not hit this year, but they're going to be a great duo in Anaheim for years to come. Those two guys, way more interested in them than Terry and Zegras. We'll go ahead and take Sergachev here. So we got the former teammates and Hedman and Sergachev. And like I said, I think they're both top 10 defensemen here. So if you're unfamiliar with the format, with the setting, EY, you're on deck, you're on the clock here. So 16 rounds, 10 bench spots, your starting lineup every week, 1 center, 2 wingers, 1 defenseman, 1 goalie, and 1 flex. $200,000 in prizes in this particular contest, $15 to enter. Promo code FTN will match your first deposit, I think, up to $1,000 for new users. So 15,000 entries. It's roughly 60% filled. So there's still time to get in and have some other teams here. I think it will get filled. We still have a few more days to get this thing ready to go. $25,000 to first place. Week 1 to week 18 is the qualifiers, then the quarters, week 19 to week 20, week 21 to 22 semis, championship week there, 23, 24. You get 6 points for a goal, 4 points for an assist, half a point for a power play point, half a point for a hit, 1 point for a shot, 1 point for a block, 6 points for a win, 0.6 points for a save, and -3 for a goal against. So this does cater to formats that you and I like, those quote-unquote bangers leagues. You get points for hits and points for shots, but it also caters to shooters, right? You're going to get extra points for shots. You're going to get extra points for goals, shooters on the power play. All that stuff does come into play here. So I'll walk through my strategy. I just talked about Gauthier. Can I take him over Velarde and DeBrusk? I think that I can. Be some high risk, high reward there for him. But I really like him overall as a player. And in what I watched from Boston was in NCAA hockey was he loves to shoot the puck. So he's on my team. And we'll be talking about him from a shot prop standpoint. You can guarantee that. So my strategy really is to hammer winger early and often because, I ended up taking Wyatt Johnson. Of course, you guys know this is also a Wyatt Johnson show. But if you have a top center, like say, a Draisaitl, a McDavid, a Matthews, a McKinnon, you could take another center within the next couple picks like you did it with Eichel. But those are going to be the guys for the most part that are going to be in your starting lineup, right? Because it's going to take one center. So you can see team 1 here ended up going Aho in the 6th and doesn't have another center, right? The thinking is McDavid is always going to be in your starting lineup unless he's hurt. The odd week he's not going to be there, but for the most part, he's always there. And then that other flex spot will only take one other center, but it will take 2 wingers. So I like to build a roster with 3 centers, 7 wingers, 3 defensemen, and 2 to 3 goalies. I have some rosters with 8 wingers. I have some rosters with just 2 goalies. I have some with 3 goalies. So I'm walking through the process like that, and I'm not going to take the 3rd goalie or the 3rd defenseman just yet. Man, Laine hurt already. I'm gonna reach. But one thing I will say is that I don't necessarily care about ADP. I have guys that I like that I think are going to be good.
Yep.
And I think some players are going too late than they should. I think some players are going too early than they should. I'm not going to base everything on ADP. I'm not going to sit here and look, oh my goodness, ADP for Fabian Zetterlund is pick 159. It was pick 168. I'm probably screwed with this entire ADP because I have a ton of him and he's pick 138 here. So I just get my guys, EY, and I don't care about any of it, man. I get the guys that I want to get.
Man.
He's a guy that
especially
touches
at this
category.
time of year, ADP can be broken, right? Like there's just not enough people playing it. It's a complete crapshoot.
It is. So I like Zetterlund. You know what? I'm finding myself with probably way too many Ducks and way too many Sharks because they're just going late in drafts. You could get Zegras and Terry with your final 2 picks if you wanted to. I did that in one draft. I was like, I'll take the Duck stack here. I have a little bit of Toffoli and Celebrini. I have a little bit of Toffoli and Zetterlund. I would say Zetterlund finds a way to get inside that top 6. You know, they have Granlund there. We'll see about Logan Couture. The Sharks are going to be fun. They're going to be a bad hockey team, but they're going to score some goals. You got a number 1 overall pick in Celebrini you're adding to that roster. You got Will Smith, who's another guy who loves to shoot the puck. He was a top 5 pick a couple years ago for the Sharks. Then you have Toffoli, and all he does is score goals no matter how old he is. Mikael Granlund, who could chip in. Then you have Zetterlund, and you have younger guys like Eklund, and maybe Couture finds a way to get in there. The Sharks are going to be fun. They're going to score some goals. And even with the Ducks, with Gauthier and Leo Carlson and Zegras and Terry going super late, Mason McTavish, like the usage rate for those players just mentioned should be high, Eric. Like they should all get opportunities for a lot of minutes and a lot of power play time. So don't necessarily shy away as you see Celebrini goes there. You just took Terry. Don't shy away from these teams on bad players because those 2 teams have, although it'll be long seasons for the Ducks and the Sharks, I think there's value with those squads. They're going to score some goals.
Yeah, for sure. We say this every year is because it's a bad team doesn't make them bad fantasy players. They're still going to score goals. They're still going to accumulate points. Just look at the opportunity for some like Troy Terry, who I just took. Like he'd probably be on the first line. He'd probably play in the top power play. The Anaheim Ducks are not going to be a good team, but they're going to score a bunch of goals, right? They're going to be in games. And, at that, this late in the draft, getting a guy like that who's going to play both top line and top power play, most likely, sign me up. And
Bertuzzi, I just took Bertuzzi. The ADP is super high. Could I have waited on this guy a little bit more? Sure, I probably could have. But, last year was an okay season for him, 20 goals, but the ice time was down and he had second power play duties. He's going to have first power play duties. He's going to play alongside Connor Bedard. So he's a guy that can touch a lot of categories. He'll probably have a career season in terms of ice time and opportunity. Power play points maybe right there for him. And he's a guy that shoots the puck. So a boost to him. You may not have been impressed with what he offered you last year with the Leafs. But again, like how many times was he on that first power play? Not often at all. So he's going to get some top line minutes there. I was debating between Hannafin and Harley there, who just went after, but I went that way. So I'm probably fine at winger now. I got 2 centers in Draisaitl and Wyatt Johnson. I have 7 wingers in Zach Hyman, Timo Meier, Owen Tippett, Dylan Guenther, Cutter Gauthier, Fabian Zetterlund, and Tyler Bertuzzi. My goalies are Sorokin and Kemper, and I'm rolling with Hedman and Sergachev on the blue line. There's a couple defensemen that are just kind of flying off the board, like Gustav Forsling. He may not get top power play time. They're going Boykvist on the unit, but they lost not only Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but they lost Montour as well. So that's a defenseman that I have some shares of. Forsling's going to touch a lot of categories for you. He's going to be leaned on quite a bit in Florida this year. Yeah, great player and had a huge offensive push in the playoffs. And with Montour gone, I imagine that Forsling plays on the top power play. I don't know who else would there. Probably Forsling. Yeah, I'd say like a little bit of him and Ekblad. Right, they can go back and forth maybe between those 2 guys. Okay, so we'll have to get a third defenseman. I missed a little bit of a run with some of the guys that I thought would fall to me, like a Chychrun or a Forsling. So it's a little bit of a defensive run there in Hannafin Harley. I'll take Letang. I know he's a little bit older here. you could see the points, like 587 points last year. Shea Theodore is a guy that I like, but I think he's overdrafted, 373 points. He's not going to hit. He's not going to shoot a lot. And I think the addition of Hannafin really does hurt the outlook of Shea Theodore. Has had some issues staying healthy. So we'll go with Letang here as a third defenseman. It's an okay defensive room in Hedman, Sergachev, and Letang. It's an okay goalie room with Sorokin and Kemper. I may take Stolarz there at the very end. I still need another center here as we wrap up the end of round 14. You took Matthew Knies. You're on point here. You're on brand, right? You're getting some of your guys.
Yep.
Walk me through your thought process here. You're on deck in round 15.
Well, I think with Knies, I think he's gonna. There's a good possibility he plays on the top line. I think he does get some power play time. He gets hits. He's a physical player, and I've got this. It's a gut feeling, but I have a gut feeling that Matthew Knies is going to take a big jump this year.
I'd like to see it. Like that's the Leafs taking the next jump as well, right? Would be, like I said, some of those kids. I know Robertson's had a nice camp here, scoring some goals. And Matthew Knies is certainly, he's had an opportunity inside that top six. Interesting what the Leafs are doing with some of their lines, eh? Like, is William Nylander really going to be their second line center this year, and they're going to put Tavares on the third line? I don't know. Interesting to see how that plays out.
That seems weird. Like, we've done this experiment before. He's just not a centerman. I know that he can play it sometimes, but being a guy, especially the number two, it's scary. Knies playing on the top line with Marner and Matthews. I think a lot of people thought Marner was going to leave. I guess it could still be a thing, but I don't think it's going to happen at this point. And Nylander in between Yarncroc and Domi. I like that. I love Domi. There's no secret that I love Kelly Yarncroc and always have. I have a jersey of his, and I want him to move into a studio apartment with me in Switzerland at some point in our life. But Tavares, Robinson, and Bobby McCann as a third line. Like, this team's loaded, right? Like, Bobby McCann came on out of nowhere last year. I really believe in Matthew Knies. I think playing on the second power play, getting some time there will really help him. And I think he could even wrestle away some top power play time as well.
I love it. So we're getting here near the end. It looks like most managers are rocking 3 goalies. You and I only have 2. I'm going to take another share of Stolarz here. Towards the end of the draft, you have Samsonov for Vegas, who I think they're going to take a step back, man. When you lose Marchessault and you lose Chandler Stevenson and you don't replace them with anybody else besides Victor Olofsson, this team will still compete. They're loaded on the blue line with Pietrangelo and Theodore and Hannafin, but also Adin Hill, when he plays, he's solid, very good, but he's had some issues staying healthy. So, I think Samsonov is one of those guys here. We'll recap this draft. Hang on for a few minutes and we'll recap and we'll talk about some late round targets. But, at the goalie position, like say outside of round 14, Logan Thompson could overtake Charlie Lindgren. Lindgren deserves to be the starter, considering how his season went last year. I think there's a higher ceiling with Thompson. That could turn into a split. I believe you're on the clock here. And then Peter Mrazek in the 14th round. Like, you get points for saves. Peter Mrazek was not a bad goalie last year in this format. Like, coughing up some goals, not going to get a lot of wins, but could rack up some saves there for you. Got to go back into that draft and find it. So where are we? Probably this last one. Let's go back here. Full draft. Let's take a look at that board as we're all wrapped up. Dostal with Gibson. Like, that's not somebody you want to have as your second goalie. Team 12 here went with Allmark, went with Cam Talbot, who I don't think the Red Wings have fixed their goaltending issues. I don't think Cam Talbot's the answer. And then Dostal here as like, hey, there's Gibson, and he went for I think he had an appendectomy. Yes, I think it was him and Caden Gooley, 2 guys, emergency surgery. So he'll be out for the next couple of weeks. Dostal's there. So Lindgren and Thompson, right? This manager decides to go with the Washington duo in net with Bobrovsky. I think that's a strategy I could potentially get behind that as like the Leafs duo the Bruins duo because
Yep.
Korpisalo is super cheap. The Carolina duo, if you wanted to go with like Anderson and Kochekov, right? We
The
know that they're
Nashville
going to
duo,
rattle
Saros and
40, 50
Wedgwood.
wins. You could do something like that if you wanted to. So there are some goalies that you can take late in drafts, but I think it's important to jump in and get. I'm Hellebuck is not for me. I don't want to spend pick 17 on a goalie, and I think there's going to be a little regression in his game and in the Jets game. But I like to live in this range here in the third round with a Soros, a Shesterkin, a Jake Ottinger, a Vasilevsky, a Skinner, Sorokin. We talked about a little bit of risk. There's certainly some risk at the moment with Jeremy Swayman. We may not see him until November. Maybe Korpisalo is trash to start the season and they decide that they have to pay him. Georgiev, I'm a little bit like, I think he's slightly overrated. So I actually think that we could see the kid there come in and take some opportunities from him. I think Kochekov is a good target. I think Ingram's a good target. I'm out on Jari. I think Aiden Hill is okay. Like I said, I think Samsonov's a decent target. And the Leafs goalies, right? Like one of them, if they hit, could be a game changer for you. So you don't want to ignore the goalie position. You want to try to get involved there. I'm going in on a 12 team draft on Underdog soon. How should I value each position? So yeah, this is a good question. So if you're just joining us, I wanted to talk about the build. So for me and my team here, it has 3 centers, 7 wingers, 3D, and 3 goalies. That's typically the build that I have. The only way that I won't go with 3 goalies is if I am aggressive at the goalie position and I'm taking 2 top 10 goalies, but I don't really normally do that. I have a little bit of Saros and Markstrom duos. That's a duo that I would just ride with all year. If one of those guys get hurt, you're in a tough spot anyways. The reason behind hammering winger early and often is, like I said earlier, is that the build, the starting roster is 1 center, 2 wingers, 1 defenseman, 1 goalie, and a flex. So if you load up center early, you're most likely going to, like, for example, if you get a McDavid, a Matthews, a McKinnon, and a Draisaitl, you probably only want to take 1 more center in the next like 6 to 7 picks. Because if you're taking 3 centers in the first 6 rounds, you got to think that only 2 of those 3 are going to get in your starting lineup each week. Where at the winger position, you can get as many as 3 and definitely 2. So I like to, you can see how the draft unfolded. Those 3 centers, that's how every draft I've seen so far this year, that's how it has gone. McDavid, Matthews, and McKinnon. Then people hammer wingers, Draisaitl falls, and then you see more wingers. For example, there are only 4 centers, Eric, taken in the first 2 rounds. McDavid, Matthews, McKinnon, Draisaitl, Jack Hughes. That's it. You have 4 defensemen, which I'm comfortable with. You're at the end of the first, you get Makar, giddy up.
Yep.
Roman Josi, I almost took him over Hyman. I leaned Hyman with the power play exposure. There's a little bit of a stack there. Fine with Josi. I have a lot of starting with Connor, getting Bouchard at the end of the second, and then going goalie. So really kind of taking care of goalie, taking care of defenseman, getting a top goalie and a top defenseman, have a top center. And then when that draft gets back to me, I'll hammer winger for like the next 6 to 8 picks. Then I get a second center. I probably round out with a third center. Not everyone's going to get first pick, but you have a top center. You kind of have that position locked down. So just what do you make of like the first, because that's not how your typical draft is going to go with your buddies in Yahoo and ESPN. There are going to be more centers. Centers are pushed down and wingers are pushed up here.
Yeah. And I think part of that is, like you said, is people take, like, I took Matthews. And I mean, I really probably didn't need to go after Jack Eichel, but just where he was, that pick 47, I think Jack Eichel is an unbelievable hockey player. I think another year removed from the crazy back surgery and being in the same system and the same coach with the same players will be a big thing. I think Jack Eichel could literally be a top 10 player this year. And Rupe Hintz is just a favorite of mine. I wasn't going to trust him. Right around their ADP, I think I'm probably center heavy here. But
I think you're
if
fine.
I don't get, I really like this team. I think not having a goalie is kind of scary. I probably could have done that, but Noah Dobson, Miro Heiskanen, Brock Faber as my 3 defensemen. Like, I'm going to get solid points out of defense every single game, solid points, top end points out of center, and then having 8 wingers. At least one of these guys is going to hit, I think, every time that this lineup goes. If I have 8 different people, one of them is going to go. If Matthews has a down game, Eichel will probably have a big game. If those 2 have a bad game, Rupo Hintz has a good game. So I think kind of diversifying it's totally different than a football draft where you want to have, really you want to try to have a stud at each position and then have guys that can fill in for them. So like, just because a really good center is available and it's your 4th or 5th pick, don't go, find a good defenseman or find a good goalie or whatever. You want to have one superstar at each position. And I think I did that. I think Kyle Connor's a superstar. I think when he plays well and the Jets are competitive, Kyle Connor is insane. I'm a huge fan of his. Austin Matthews, that speaks for itself. Noah Dobson was one of the best fantasy defensemen in the league last year.
Yeah. And
Shesterkin could be the top goalie. So yeah. I like this team. I do worry both of those guys get hurt. Wall hasn't completed a season yet, so that's a little terrifying. So I think I probably would have traded one of my, maybe Kirill Mashenko, where I took him at 143. Probably too soon for him, but I like him. And I think, the unfortunate news of Johnny Gaudreau not being there, they're going to need other wingers to step up, and there's going to be more opportunities for those guys.
Yeah, there will be. Yeah. And I agree with you there. And not only Johnny Hockey, which still breaks my heart, is Patrick Laine gone from that squad as well, right? So,
yeah, that's sad.
Those are 2 players that, say what you want about Laine, but those are 2 players that, played big roles for them last year when they were in the lineup. I like your team too. So you did go heavy center early, but you ignored it after, which is fine. Like, you want to have 3 centers, things are going to happen. You figure Matthews is in your lineup every single week, and there's upside there with Rupe Hintz and Jack Eichel. And I guess the only thing that I would have did different, and you just touched on it, is maybe one less winger and maybe a goalie at the end here, whether it's Askarov or
I had Askarov in my queue. I should have taken him. But I didn't.
But yeah, I mean, you have some fun. You build different rosters here, NHL time. You do some different things. And like I said, wingers will be pushed up. I think it's important to attack shooters, try to target guys that are on power plays. Stacks are not everything, but if you're splitting a tie, I do have a couple stacks here. For example, like I have Utah's power play, I think, in Sergachev and Logan Cooley as my 3rd center with Dylan Guenther. I got Hyman and Draisaitl together. I know they may not play a lot at 5 and 5, but they'll be together, on the power play. So stacks are not everything, but they can be beneficial, especially, if it falls into your lap that way, or if you're splitting some sort of tie between a couple players and you have another guy. I think, it does make a little bit of sense there. I'm looking back at my draft. And it's okay. There's a couple quote unquote reaches there in Fabian Zetterlund and Tyler Bertuzzi. But again, I think you can throw ADP out the window. I have rankings over at FTN Fantasy, which you can take a look at, but target some shooters. Don't shy away from guys with hits. And, there's certainly something to be said about some defensemen that you can see go late here, like Jake Wallman. I think is very interesting. He's going to block a ton of shots. He could get some opportunity on San Jose's top power play, which at times he did in Detroit, but there was really just no room for him on that first power play. He should get a ton of usage in San Jose. Letang still has a little bit to offer. We talked about Forsling there. I don't know if he cracks power play 1, but there's an opportunity there for him. If Boyquist doesn't work out, they want to limit Aaron Ekblad's numbers. Montour is gone, as out the door. Chychrun, the loss of Chychrun in Ottawa does open things up for the breakout of Jake Sanderson to be the guy on the first power play. Shabbat hasn't been healthy. Move him on the 2nd unit. Chychrun may not get on that first unit. They may decide to rock him and Carlson on that first unit, or they may just roll Chychrun on that 2nd unit. and we know Ovechkin's going to stay there. But Seth Jones and Sanderson and Darnell Nurse, these guys in the 12th round, I think, are decent targets, right? Seth Jones, you don't have to worry about plus minus. He's going to log a lot of minutes. Chicago did a good job of bringing in some talent on that squad, so maybe they score a few more goals. Talked about Anderson, or Sanderson rather. Darnell Nurse, right? Like, say what you want about him. $9 million player, clearly overpaid. Bouchard's the guy on the top line, but Cece's gone. They lost some players on the blue line. He likes to hit, he likes to block shots, and he shoots the puck. So like him and Jacob Trouba, you may not consider those guys, but they are going to touch some categories for you. Trouba less in this format, but as opposed to like banger 12-team leagues in Yahoo. So just rolling through some of the defensemen here. As I mentioned, Makar, Yossi, Bouchard, Dahlin, all comfortable with them. Love the Noah Dobson pick from you. Like Dougie Hamilton here. He's got top 10 upside.
I love Dougie Hamilton.
I think that Hedman should go much earlier. Like I have Hedman ranked ahead of Quinn Hughes. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Hughes is going to rack up
just last year, right? Everyone's terrified. Well, Sergachev is gone.
Yeah, he's gone. Fox, I think Hughes going to touch early. I think a lot of people I think Vancouver may regress a touch, but Hughes going to touch a lot of categories for you. He's fine, but other guys, like he won't do the same thing as like Mackenzie Weegar, shooting more, like 4 hits a game, like things like that. Mackenzie Weegar was a top 10 fantasy defenseman last year. Again, say what you want about the Flames, but he's going to be out there a lot, and he's going to be touching other categories for you. Sider, same sort of deal, touching categories for you. Morgan Riley goes a little bit too early for me. Like the Faber pick by you, again, touches a lot of categories. Brennan Montour, like that pick as well. But I think leaving with 3 defensemen, if you can get a top 10 guy that's going to be on the power play, be the quarterback for their power play is ideal. Get involved again with the value that I see with Hedman, Weegar, Werenski, Matheson again. Why is Matheson was a top 10 defenseman last year, guys? He's going outside of the top 20. He's going outside the top 25, 30 in Yahoo. I like Lane Hudson. I think he's going to be a good player in the league, but he is not overtaking Mike Matheson on the first power play. I don't think so at all. He could find himself on that first power play. Maybe they rock both defensemen, but Matheson touched career highs last year in ice time, goals, points, shots, hits, blocks. He does it all, and the usage should be high. I think he's a good target in the middle rounds as well. Who are some players that you're excited about this year? Some teams that you're excited. I know you're excited about the Preds. You're excited about the Leafs. Anybody else really? Any other? This New Jersey's year with the Markstrom edition.
So I think New Jersey could be a powerhouse. I also think that we could get the same thing that everyone thinks they're going to be a powerhouse, and it just doesn't happen.
Just lay an egg again.
Dougie Hamilton back. I mean, looking at the goalie tandem, it should be one of the best in the league. Hughes, and if Monter turns into the player that he was in San Jose, and like there's a lot of questions. But the truth is, if you look up and down that lineup, they could be an absolutely offensive wrecking machine, like just scoring at a pace that teams can't keep up with. So I really like them. Rangers, I really like again. Lafreniere is a guy that I really like. He got sniped in this draft. I wanted him. Yeah, I really like him. Dallas, I think, is going to be good all over again. Florida, I think, will be good, but not as good. But I also think part of what makes them good is the coach and how they play. And I don't think it's so much who plays as how they play. It's just other teams just aren't capable of maintaining the pressure that they do. And it's play against, as a person, I play hockey, poorly, but I still play. Playing against a player that doesn't get tired, that's just all like, it's the worst. It's the absolute worst thing on earth. Every time the puck is on your stick, that guy's around you, and it makes you do stupid things. It makes you cough it up. He's poking it off your stick. And they've got 4 lines of players like that just do not quit and are relentless. And the coach sets them up to be aggressive, right? They want to be aggressive, and playing against a team like that is frustrating. It's hard. And it's hard to maintain your system when you have these guys breathing down your neck all night. So I think Florida will still be very, very good this year.
I think they will too. It's just so tough to go back a third year. Maybe that's why,
Sure.
it actually could be Toronto's year. I still don't fully believe in the Bruins. I like the addition of Elias Lindholm. I think, he'll come back to life, as Boston, has a number one center there again, an upgrade over Zaka and Charlie Coyle. Florida, tough to get back. I think, Tampa, decent long shot. They got really good odds. It's still going to be a good team. Vasilevsky can kind of rebound a little bit. They'll hang around, but I'm with you on like the Rangers. The Rangers, it may actually. I still think they're missing one piece or so, but I like them probably more than
Could be
Carolina,
Kako.
right?
Could be Filipino. It could be one of those guys takes a big step, right? Like I
Yeah,
think I agree. Looking at the roster last year, they were missing that kind of one more kind of scoring element. Chris Kreider is proven. I mean, just does it every year, is an absolute savage. Lafreniere took a huge step, and now I think it's Kako and Heedle's turn. And I think either one of those guys, if both of them take a step, look out, man. Look
yeah.
out.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's top heavy in the East, and I don't believe in the Sens. I don't believe in the Sabres. I'm not believing, man. Ottawa, Vegas is holding like 90-point total for them. They had 2 more points than the Habs, and the Habs had the most man games lost, the most 1-goal losses. So it's like, why am I buying into Ottawa here? I actually think the Habs can finish ahead of the Senators, but I think the East, like, I want to we'll have a prediction show. I want to pick somebody else, but I think like it's going to be similar playoff squads in the Eastern Conference than we saw last year. The West, I think we could see like, the Jets take a step back. I think we could see Utah take a step forward.
I
Definitely
think
your
Utah could be
Preds, right?
good. I
Yeah,
really
I think
believe.
Utah could be good as well. They're a team that I think could hang around. The Carolina Hurricanes, man, like they lost TiVo. They weren't able to retain Gensel. It's gonna be the same sort of deal. Like they're just gonna be hurting for offense when it matters most in Carolina. So I'm willing to say that the Rangers and the Devils have maybe a better season than Carolina. I'm talking long term, like all the way to the dance, but. I think we're going to get out of here. We're going to wrap up. You still hear me? All right. EY, I think the headset died, but you can still hear me. Just a couple things here on the way out. The Fantasy Hockey Draft Kit is free. It's live over at ftnfantasy.com. Sleepers, busts, breakouts, targets, NHL betting guide. The rankings will be updated throughout the season. We'll have waiver wire content. We have a Discord channel, Fantasy Hockey Discord channel, where conversations are already happening, talking about picking up Brent Clark with Drew Doughty's sideline month to month with an injury. He should get an opportunity on that Kings power play. We have some video content, Dango Batselli and FTN Fantasy. This show, Dango Batselli, will be live on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We hope to see as much of EY as we can. And it will only be available as a show. So you're going to want to subscribe to our YouTube page. You get notified right away when we go live. I can put some of these up in podcast form under the Mean Streets umbrella. If you aren't already subscribed there, do so. But this will, for the most part, be a show. The shelf life is very, very short as we talk picks for that day. But, if you're subscribed over Mean Streets, you'll be able to find some stuff. So again, try to have some fun with these drafts. Don't ignore goalie altogether. Maybe leave with 3 if you do. Get yourself a top 10 defenseman, maybe 2 in the top 15. Try to seek some value. Check out some of those articles. Hammer winger early. Like this team, Chris, it's not me, but this team 10, you can see the build, that the approach that he went with here. Forsberg, Panarin, Caulfield, Kempe. Those guys are all shooters. They're goal scorers. Then he got involved with Demko. Then he gets back into wingers with Konechny and Vetrano. Doesn't take his first center till Barkov in the 8th round. Trocheck in the 8th round is also terrific in this format. Trocheck over Zibanejad for me. He does more from a fantasy hockey perspective and just know your settings. So you can ignore center for a little bit if you want. Tage Thompson's a 5th round pick. You got Eichel in the 4th. Thompson this time last year was like end of 1st, early 2nd. He's going to rebound. Like he had a wrist injury last year. He's going to rebound this year. Erickson in the 7th touches a lot of categories. Joel Eriksson Ek. Trocheck in the 8th, Wyatt Johnson in the 8th, Dylan Larkin, Barkov in the 8th, Aho there in the 6th, sometimes falls to the 7th. Nico Hischier touches categories, Kadri and Suzuki in the 10th. So Try to hammer winger early and often, get some shooters there, power play guys, and then you can, get some value at the center position as most people will let the centers fall. So that'll do it. I'm looking at the last round here. I like the Tolvanen pick by you. The last 3 rounds, there's some really good late round targets. Jake Neighbors, Matthew Nyes, Anthony Duclair, former 30-goal scorer. He's going to play on that top line with Barzell and Horvat. We're going to be talking about Duclair again this year. He's like our guy, isn't he?
He's one of our guys. And Tolvanen, I think, is going to have a really good year playing on the second line in Seattle and playing on the top power play in the shooter position. Dude can fire the puck. It's never really clicked. A little bit it clicked last year. I think this is going to be a big year for him. I should have taken a goalie there, but he's one of my guys.
You're good. Avoid guys. I know Mark Stone goes in the last round. I'm fine with the last round, but in your own redraft league, like Mark Stone's, he's going to miss a little bit of time, unfortunately. Landeskog may be worth your time at the very end of drafts. I like Lehkonen going late. Tyson Forster, I think, is a good pick pretty late as well. I do like Marchenko as a target. You have him, Fabian Zetterlund, Gabriel Velarde, Jake DeBrusk, right? Should be playing alongside Aletas Pettersson, and he should be on that top power play. He never got top power play time in Boston. He could be in for a career year in Vancouver. Trevor Moore, Tyler Toffoli, guys that are underrated there as shooters and guys that can score they can score some goals there. All right, we're out of here. Aaron, shout out to you and shout out to NHL Time. We'll try to do another one of these. I think actually I'm going to do one tomorrow night with Griff. So make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube page. Eric and I will be back before the season starts with a prediction show. And we're about a week away from, I know the season starts early overseas, but about a week away from the puck dropping here in North America. So give Eric a follow at the Eric Young, myself, Chris Meaney. Appreciate you guys. Again, any questions, hit us up. But that fantasy hockey kit is live over at ftnfantasy.com. Keep her locked. We'll do a couple more of these drafts as we try to fill out this league. Peace. We're back, baby. We're back.